subpar fruit waffle today.
It looks pretty good to me, but a little bit tarnished maybe, but it's going to taste just great.
Honestly, it looks even worse now than it did when I cut it up this morning.
I had to wash my laundry and stuff like that. I'm going to take this
mandarin.
off right now. I'm going to eat that first.
Yeah.
That's a little chocolate treat.
Because it's Easter, so you got a little
Easter. Pauline's very thoughtful.
This got the top of the stack rating from me, even though I didn't think it was as good as the first season. And then
is that the one from Australia?
No.
Oh, okay.
But what I put in the waffle, because it was subpar fruit today, I put a treat. I put coconut cream powder in the mix, so that was one package. I think that's 60 grams.
Sorry, I
went into a mix for 4 waffles. What?
I interrupted you when you were introducing that. Sorry.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Call me by your name.
So, yeah, it was 60 grams package. So one package in for 4 waffles. So it works out that that's the one waffle is the serving size for this. That's 90 calories in one. Just of the powder. And let's see what we can do with this. Really what to say about it. I didn't find it nearly as enjoyable as the first season. I mean, it's still cute. But let's see, the most annoying, the episodes, they were in like a couple parts or whatever per, so the stories ran over an hour, so they were a couple hours or something.
To be continued after an hour.
Which is great, I like that.
Well, you pointed out that TV series, one of the reasons why they're better is they're not just aimed like movies are nowadays to teenage boys, but or their mental equivalent, but emotional equivalent.
No, it's great because most
you can have these continued storylines on TVs as well.
Most people, once they reach my age, they're not buying into the dinner and a movie out idea. Really, it's very uncreative, very boring, conservative people who buy into that. Having to,
it's literally buying into it. The movies themselves, I don't know what they cost nowadays.
Why do people
they were ridiculous when they were
want to go
$7.
to a movie theater crammed with a bunch of people that they don't know? It's way too loud, and the floor is sticky and gross, and you're sitting in seats that you don't know
what's been done
gross they are.
Yep.
And hello, Blue Jay.
Wow.
I should grab the camera. Do you think they'll move?
There we go. Isn't it? So. Wow.
There's the Blue Jay that was, he came right over, right behind the camera, and there he goes. But yeah, I hope you saw him with the video.
Hold out some food?
I know, I think that's what he wanted. He wanted some of your waffle stuff. Yep. He's like, give me some of that orange or whatever. So
they probably couldn't eat the chow, right?
Oh, you could eat that.
How about if I hold out a mango? No?
If you want to give it to him.
Well, look,
I don't know. I should try to get him some food. I put food out on that
if you would
thing, but I think he'd like some sunflower seeds. So why don't you talk about your book?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just say the one episode with the Edgar Allan Poe episode was really annoying. The Poe your boat. That's nobody would have a children's book about Edgar Allan Poe.
Anyway, I wanted to talk about Michael Moore. Pauline maybe returned the case with the DVD inside of it. But I'll probably wait to do that. I've been threatening to review. To review these books. Bobby Orr, written by him. Well, I think it's my story.
I'll get to
but I'm sure it's ghost written. It's just maybe not ascribed to a ghostwriter. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, there's no credit for a ghostwriter. Maybe Bobby was a bit brighter than he showed in his interviews, and showed in his tactical awareness, particularly defensive awareness on the ice, tactical. Strategically, he didn't handle his career very well. And then the Golden Jet, who died recently. Perhaps he should have died of embarrassment. He used to be my favorite player back in the day. And then I switched over from the Chicago Blackhawks to the Montreal Canadiens, and then I liked Guy Lafleur. And then the guy who played fire wagon hockey, which is the way the Montreal Canadiens were supposed to play, but they gave up doing that in the 70s, or the 80s I should say. The 70s they played it incredibly well, fire wagon hockey. But this is a guy who played fire wagon hockey the way it's supposed to be played. Only he played hockey better than, at least offensive hockey, better than anyone ever played it up till his point in time. And better than Bobby Hull, definitely. Because Gretzky knew how to pass. And yes, Don Cherry, I don't want you to have your fatal heart attack listening to this, so steel yourself. Way better than Bobby Orr. It's not even close. Because I'd say Bobby Orr maybe was the most brilliant hockey player ever. But the greatest was Gretzky. Because, sometimes it's genetics that determines how good you are in something. I'll illustrate it to you. But first I'll say Bobby Orr just didn't have good knees. Both knees bad. I think there's a photo in here of his knees after various surgeries and stuff like that. I'm not talking about a external photo, I'm talking about a x-rays. Yeah, both knees.
Okay. Here we go.
I'll let you get a second look at that. Double take. It's after treatment. Bobby Orr was not born with great knees. Now maybe he didn't have a good diet. Maybe he didn't get enough calcium and potassium. Potassium might even be more important than calcium for bone development and maintaining bone. But he would have had trouble with his cartilage too. I'm not sure exactly what's. It's probably cartilage more than anything else. I'm not sure exactly what you need. Probably protein and other things for that. I don't think his diet would have been very good. But and the way I illustrate it, and this is only a slight reductio ad absurdum, and that is consider things. I'm not boasting when I say that back in the day, I can't do it now. I think I'd get back spasms if I had to shoot something as heavy as a basketball. I got 5 fractured vertebrae, compression fractures. How serious? I lost an inch of height for every one of those compression fractures. So basketballs are fairly heavy. Just getting one accelerated to the point where I could just shoot a wee little dinky little shot would probably give me back spasms the next day. Not immediately. But I'm not making it up. I'm not into making things up or exaggerating stuff. I could, back in the day, shoot every shot in basketball better than Shaquille O'Neal. And Shaquille O'Neal at least once was named the most valuable player in the NBA. I'd be shocked if he didn't make it to the Hall of Fame, NBA Hall of Fame, or Basketball Hall of Fame, however they style it. Every shot except one. And you should be able to figure out that, because back in I'm 5'4" now, but back in my playing days, before my 5 compression fractures of the spine, I was 5'9", as average height for a guy. So I couldn't shoot the slam dunk. But, if my genetics had been different, I would have been able to shoot a slam dunk. And that would have meant I could have shot every shot. All other things being equal, generally clumsiness comes with the larger the size is of the body, the more clumsy a person gets. But I would have been able to shoot every shot better than Shaquille O'Neal. I wouldn't have been lugging around the weight, and I'm telling you, I would have been faster. I would have been long distance, or like in terms of time, way better than him. I used to be able to run 10 miles, 16 kilometers in 62 minutes, 21 seconds. Now again, the bigger you are, the more weight you're lugging around, so I wouldn't have been able to run that fast. I wasn't carrying around excess weight. So I would have been way better long distance. And you know what I was really good at with things like a mile? You couldn't stay with me in soccer. I could run a mile in roughly 4:15. That's 4 times around a track. You try that once at that rate, going around a track once in a minute, and see how you handle it. Now, some of you folks out there could do it better than me. Not many. And that's without training. I just, all I did was I cared about, I did the 5BX RCAF training program. But I never trained specifically for the mile or anything like that. But, you can imagine what it would be like on a soccer field. That's a mile. It would be like 16 times up and down the soccer field. And not from box to box. It's from end to end. You can imagine guys trying to stay with me. Initially, when I picked up soccer, I started at age 3, plus 20, 23. Initially, guys didn't care. I wasn't a threat with the ball. But I knew I'd picked up enough technique one time when a guy was hitting me. Not when I had the ball. It was just constantly boom, boom, boom from behind. I told the referee for some reason or other didn't understand the rules. The rules state that you can basically only thump someone in soccer when he's got the ball on his foot or within playing distance, and it used to be you only could make contact shoulder to shoulder. Nowadays, they allowed, if a guy's shielding a ball, you can kind of hit him from behind. But definitely, if he doesn't have the ball, if the ball's elsewhere, he shouldn't be hitting. But the guy was hitting me, boom, boom, boom. The referee didn't understand what was going on. It was a form of constant intimidation and so on and so forth. But the guy, he started to lag a little bit. Second half, I didn't even see it. He couldn't keep up with me. He'd been telling the guys he played with, they were into aluminum extrusion. I'm not going to mention the company, because they don't want them to be associated with the kind of tactics the guy was using. But he told me, I run half marathons. Yeah, jogged half marathon. He had a little bit of a tug around the middle. But he couldn't keep up with it. Anyway, Shaquille O'Neal. If I'd been born, if I had the genes somewhat like Shaquille O'Neal that allow me to be, I think it was 7'1". There's no way I'd be running to 300 pounds or whatever he ran.
I have to find the binoculars. They're just, many of them are hanging out in the elm.
Are those sparrows or?
Can't tell. Need binoculars.
Yeah.
I went and tried to look, but.
Anyway, Bobby Orr was shot by the age of 30. Wayne Gretzky made it to the age of 40. Professional career. And that makes a difference. The stats show. You look at Bobby Orr, and where does he sit? Oh, I couldn't even tell you where he sits in overall points scored. He's way down there. overall points scored for a defenseman. Last time I checked, and believe me, he's not working his way up the charts. It's been a long time. I think it was even before 1980 he was retired. That's, what is that, 40 years? He's not working his way up the charts. He'd be working his way down 11th. For defenseman scoring, way behind Ray Bourque and Paul Coffey. If I were picking, if these guys were in the same draft pick, 18 years old, 20 years old, or whatever, and I knew how long their careers would be and the arc of their careers, Bobby Orr's arc went way up there. Incredible scoring feats. It didn't last for long. He only won 2 Stanley Cups. Dude won 4 when there were a lot more teams. And Bobby Orr performed. He won the Conn Smythe Trophy for Most Valuable Player in playoffs twice. I don't know how many times Wayne Gretzky won it, but when Mark Messier won his, when they beat the Islanders in 5 games or something like, Mark Messier should have got a kick in his pants. He scored 1 glorious goal. Guy had trouble in his end. You look at his record, you can find it because he made it into the Hall of Fame. So did Wayne Gretzky. Look at the comparative plus-minus statistics for Mark Messier and Gretzky. Messier playing against second-rate, literally second-rate defenders. Once he shifted to center, like if I'm a coach playing against the Edmonton Oilers in the 80s, I don't put my top defensive center on Mark Messier. I put him on Wayne Gretzky every time. So that means the second best defensive center is playing against Mark Messier. And Mark Messier still got a dumpy plus-minus record. So that, like you could see on Wayne Gretzky's face when they were announcing the Most Valuable Player, the Conn Smythe Trophy, in that first series they won against the Islanders. The second one they played, they lost the first one. You can see he's absolutely shocked. And I was flabbergasted because he was a scoring machine throughout all those playoffs. Messier turned down once, and he did this kind of like solo kind of thing. Believe me, it shocked the Islanders. But that he did that. And people are going around and saying he's the leader of the Oilers. He was. Like he was a misleader of the Oilers. Because he didn't play in his own end. He didn't know how to play defense. He was arrogant, pretentious. He was going around. He cost them the series against the Islanders the year before when they went down. I think it was in 4 straight games. Messier, him and Anderson, they were fuddling around in their end. The Islanders were just exploiting them every time. You look at, if I'm not mistaken, Gretzky, even though they lost that series, he was their leading scorer in the NHL playoffs that year. That's it. Not even close. But Gretzky is the number 1 plus-minus player in all of hockey ever. Offensive player. Forward is Bobby Orr. You'll get Don Cherry blowing his horn. Boop, 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 boop. Not his own horn. He does that plenty enough. But although when it comes to his own hockey skills, he's I think sufficiently humble. But he's blowing, as a coach, he thinks he's pretty good at it. But he's blowing Bobby Orr's horn. Plus minus in 1 year. I think it was relatively, it was the mid-70s, not in the early 70s. 124. But he doesn't tell you who ended up second. This is for 1 season. Larry Robinson. How far behind was he? Well, he only got 20. No, 20 plus 100. 120. When you're 4 points ahead of someone and it's 124 to 120, that's something like a 3% difference. It doesn't make a hills of beans worth of difference. And the important thing is, career-wise, who's the record holder in the NHL for plus minus? Ain't Bobby Orr. and it ain't Wayne Gretzky. But forwards don't spend as much time out on the ice as defenders. It's Larry Robinson. And I'm telling you, these guys up for a draft, I'm looking for who's going to take me to the dance, the big dance, the most times. And then who's going to help me win the big rodeo, if I can afford to, if you'll allow me the mixed metaphor. I'm going to go with Gretzky. How many times did he make it to the finals? I think it was 6 times. How many times did big old Bobby Orr make it to the finals? 3 times? 1 twice? You know, Wayne Gretzky 6 times. Won it 4 times. Larry Robinson. How many times did he make it to the finals? 6 times. How many did he win? 6 times. I'd pick Larry Robinson. I don't think I'd pick him over Wayne Gretzky. I'd pick him over Bobby Orr, hands down. Larry Robinson probably made it well past age 40. And he was a leader, and he was a clean player, unlike Bobby Orr. Ken Dryden, when he's talking in his book, The Game, when he's talking about Larry Robinson, he said, he's amazing. He was like a sponge. You could see that he picked up the European players when they were working the power play. They'd have this tendency, generally you play a box against a power play. 1, 2, 3, 4. NHL players used to play 2 guys back at the point. The Europeans got this habit. Because why would you play 2 guys back at the point when you've got guys covering you on the end of the box? So the European players went to the middle. And Larry Robinson picked that up like a sponge. You could see him improve. He was they called him Big Bird, and he's kind of big and seemed kind of clumsy. He was fast, but he picked up that European tendency. He picked up a lot of other things. But what Ken Dryden says about Larry Robinson is the one word that characterizes him, summarizes him better than anything else is what I call the 4-letter word, 4-letter F word for athletes. It's F-E-A-R. It's not what you think. Fear. But you know, Robinson didn't exploit it. He's a big guy, 6'3" back then. Nowadays, there's lots of guys 6'3". Chara, 6'7" or something like that. He might have retired. But fear. Whereas, you know, I don't know if Larry Robinson got penalty minutes much over 100. Now, a lot of guys, you know, like you'll get Don Cherry saying, "Oh, this guy scores 50 goals. He's got 75 assists and 100 minutes in penalties." When you got 100 minutes in penalties, unless you're fighting with someone and take them off the ice with you, you're costing your team. Even if you got a good penalty kill, what is it, like 10% of the time? Even if you got a good penalty kill, maybe 15% of the time you're giving up a goal. And Bobby Orr was getting these chippy little penalties and stuff like that. He's a chippy little player. And that's one reason. It wasn't just because he was born with lousy knees. He played on a team that was worse than chippy. And people would be looking to get even with the Boston Bruins. They'd pick on small, young players. Gang up on them. It's not like one big player. They'd gang up on them. And of course, other teams would be going, who's vulnerable on their other team? How can we most hurt them to get even with them? Oh, we'll go after Bobby Orr. See how these things work out? And plus, he doesn't help things by being chippy. So, you know, I've got a highlight reel of Bobby Orr I will watch. I mean, he's an awesome player to watch. You know? I'm not the kind of person that's just like, this is a person, totally. He's amazing. He might have had some of the best run of years, like 5 years in a row or a little bit more than anyone ever had. Even better than Wayne Gretzky had. It's just the run didn't last very long. But he's talking about the first game he ever played in the NHL. And it's against the Detroit Red Wings. And Gordie Howe. And Gordie Howe played up front. As I recall, he was a right winger. Now, Bobby Orr, he played over on the other side. But somehow or another, so he was on the right side on the defense, so he'd be up against lefties. Is that where Bobby Orr? I believe that's where he was. But at any rate, he kind of talks about it, and he admits that he kind of deserved what he got. So you know what's happening. Spoiler alert. You might see the highlight. But anyway, what happens is something like in the first period, early in the game, he cross-checks Gordie Howe. What? Now, Bobby Orr was maybe 18, I think he was 17, 18 years old. But, you should be smart enough. Someone should have been telling him, you just mind your P's and Q's around, and all the rest of the alphabet around Gordie Howe. So he cross-checks. Where does he cross-check? Guys didn't wear helmets back then. Gordie Howe, I don't think ever would have worn a helmet, aside from when he was injured. And so where does he... On the back of the head. He cross-checks Gordie Howe. And of course, he talks about... He's got a smile on his face because he survived it. But Gordie Howe saved up a big elbow for him later on in the game. It used to be the referees would swallow the whistles so deeply. Of course, they were the worst in the 80s, early 80s, especially Andy Van Hellemond. And he seemed to have a special spot in his heart for the New York Islanders. They just cheat. There's some of those guys for the Islanders, they couldn't stay up on their skates if they weren't holding and hooking onto someone. Some guys had to do both, like Ken Morrow. He was all octopus, only with two arms. Ken Morrow.
Well, I'm going to talk about this and give us an
that's right.
idea
You
of whether
finished.
the coconut cream is good in that. So, Call Me By Your Name. This one, speaking of hockey. No, this has nothing to do with hockey. But there's a lot of controversy about gay people in hockey, I suppose. So maybe. But no, this has nothing to do with hockey. But this is about a gay romance. And at 1:20, an hour 20 minutes into the movie, I'm like, so are they ever going to get together? Well, it's a long movie. So they do. And
you should have spoiler alerted them. But.
Yeah. But honestly, like I'm watching this thing, and it did get 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, and you're wondering why on earth is this under Queens of Mystery Series 2, which she didn't like that much. But I enjoyed it. I enjoy watching mysteries. And I really, I know this kid is supposed to be 17 years old, but honestly, he looks like 14 to me.
Kind of creepy? Holy smokes.
Yeah. And
seems a little creepy. How about the other guy?
Creepy. He's older.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's getting creepy.
Yeah. So, I honestly, I'm glad that there wasn't a lot of like you see them kissing and stuff like that. But the most graphic thing you see is the 17-year-old, I don't know if I'm allowed to say finger banging, Peach on, like he's taking out the pit, and then he does consummate the relationship with the Peach. But you don't see that, you just see his face, right?
I know you might be allowed to say it, but that's not exactly. I'm eating some fruit here. But, oh well. So, you gotta deal with what you gotta deal with.
But
right?
That's the most graphic thing you see in this movie, and so I can't imagine people would get really up in arms about. Well, do people even get up